People think talking about food is simple. Just taste, flavor, what you like or don't like. But every time someone tells me their favorite dish, I hear something deeper, a small confession about who they are. Because food isn't just food. It's memory, comfort, identity. It's the way your grandmother's kitchen smelled on a Sunday. It's that snack you bought after school when the world felt too big. It's the flavor that reminds you of home, even if home is now far away. Here, in this cafe, with the soft light falling on the wooden tables and people whispering their stories over warm cups, English feels different, more honest, more human, and taste becomes something you don't just describe, you feel it. Because when you say, I love this, you're not only choosing a flavor, you're revealing a piece of your past, your culture, and sometimes even your vulnerability. That's why today, Marcus and I chose to talk about food preferences, not to list vocabulary, not to memorize phrases, but to show you how language lives inside these quiet choices, the things you reach for when you're tired or lonely or happy or when you're trying to remember who you used to be. So sit with us for a moment, listen, and maybe through this conversation, you'll discover that learning English isn't just about the words. It's about the stories they carry. So, if I ask you a simple question, what kind of food do you like? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing? Probably something with a strong flavor. Something that feels like home. But when I try to explain that in English, it always sounds, too basic.
Too basic? Why?
Because I end up saying things like, I like spicy food, or I like pasta. It feels like I'm describing myself in one sentence. But food is more than that to me.
Go on. What's behind it?
Well, when I say, I like spicy food, what I really mean is, it reminds me of my childhood, of my mom cooking with the windows open, music playing, and neighbors yelling from one house to another. It reminds me of noise and warmth. But I don't know how to say all of that without sounding dramatic.
It doesn't sound dramatic. It sounds human. And food preferences are human. Try describing it the way you feel it, not the way you think English expects you to speak.
All right. Let me try. I like spicy food because it feels alive. When I eat something spicy, I feel like it wakes me up. It's comforting in a strange way.
That's beautiful and very natural. You see, you didn't need any fancy vocabulary. You just needed honesty. Now, can you tell me a dish, one specific thing that carries a story?
Yes. Feijoada. But that's the problem. In English, when I try to explain it, it becomes a black bean stew with meat, and that sounds like something from a survival show.
Yes, translations can be cruel sometimes. So don't translate it. Describe it.
Describe it okay. Feijoada is heavy, but in a good way. It's the kind of food you eat slowly with people you love on a day you're not in a rush. It tastes like home, like a long weekend, like resting.
That's perfect. That's real English. Now, let me ask you something more specific. Is it your comfort food?
Definitely. When I'm tired, it's my go-to. I don't eat it often, but when I do, it feels like someone is giving me a hug from the inside.
I love that image. Comfort food is exactly that, something that carries emotion. Now let's switch a bit. Is there any food you can't stand?
Oh yes. Pickles. I can't stand the taste of pickles.
Really? Pickles offend you?
They do. They're sour, too strong, they ruin everything they touch. And every time I order a burger and say, no pickles, please, I feel like I'm confessing a crime.
That's such a common feeling. People apologize for their preferences all the time. But taste isn't a moral choice. It's just taste. Is it the flavor or the texture or something else?
I think it's the texture. It's too crunchy and wet at the same time. I know that's a weird description.
Not weird at all. That's how real people talk about food. Now, if you had to express that in a natural sentence, something simple, how would you say it?
Let me think. I can't stand the taste of pickles. It's something about the texture, too crunchy and too wet at once.
Perfect. Very natural, very real. Now, let me ask you something more emotional. Is there a food that reminds you of a moment, one specific memory?
Yes. Pão de queijo.
Ah, the Brazilian classic.
For me, it's more than classic. When I was a kid, my aunt used to make it in the afternoon. I remember hearing the sound of the oven door opening. I remember the smell filling the house. And when I bite into one today, even here in the US, it reminds me of that softness. That peace.
You see what you just did? You used memory to describe flavor. That's exactly what we want in real English. Speaking from experience, not from a dictionary.
But sometimes I still struggle. Like when I want to say why certain foods feel emotional. I worry it sounds childish.
Marcus, food is one of the most emotional topics in every language. No one sounds childish. We sound human. Now, let me guide you with a few phrases you can use. Tell me, what's something you enjoyed recently?
Last week I had ramen. Real ramen. Not the instant one.
And how was it?
It was calming. Warm, soft, salty but gentle. It felt like something designed to make you breathe slower.
That's such a beautiful way to describe it. Now, try adding one of those natural English patterns. For example, I'm not picky, but
I'm not picky, but I like ramen to be really hot. If it's not steaming, it loses the magic.
brilliant. Very expressive. Do you see how using these little phrases makes your English sound more natural? More emotional?
Yes. It feels more like me. In Portuguese, I can talk about food for hours, and it becomes a whole conversation about life. But in English, I always felt like I had to reduce everything to categories.
You don't. English can hold your stories too. You just need to trust that the language has space for your memories, your flavors, your texture preferences, all of it.
It's funny, I never thought food could be a way to practice being more myself in another language.
But that's exactly what it is. When you say, "This reminds me of home," you're not only learning English, you're building a bridge between two versions of you. And that's why we're having this conversation today, to show that your taste, your comfort food, your little dislikes, they all speak. They all tell your story.
I like that. And honestly, this feels easier than I expected. Talking about food is like talking about emotions with a disguise.
Exactly. And that's why so many people connect through it. Now, before we move on, let me ask one more question. If someone asked you right now, what food says the most about you? What would you answer?
Probably something simple. Maybe rice and beans. It's not fancy, not dramatic, but it feels like the foundation of everything. Like something solid, steady, familiar.
And that's exactly how you express identity, through English, not with perfect grammar, but with sincerity. Now we're ready for the next part of our conversation. You know, Marcus, people often think that talking about food is just practical. Something you do when you're choosing a restaurant or ordering a meal. But the truth is, every time someone describes what they love or what they can't stand, they're revealing pieces of where they come from. Food is origin. It's affection. It's belonging. And the way we talk about it changes from culture to culture, almost like an emotional accent. For example, in Britain, we're quite subtle. We don't usually say, I absolutely love this. We soften everything. We say, it's quite nice, or I don't mind it, even when we adore the dish. Our compliments are gentle like our weather. And when we dislike something, we use understatement. It's not really my thing, or I'm not too keen on it. It's our polite way of protecting feelings, including our own. Americans, on the other hand, speak about food with enthusiasm. They use big feelings. They say things like, this is amazing, or I'm obsessed with this, or this is the best thing ever. Food becomes excitement, identity, energy. And then there's Brazil, your country. Brazilians talk about food the way they talk about family, with warmth, nostalgia, and humor. You don't just say you like something. You tell a story around it. My grandmother made this. This reminds me of home. This is what we ate on Sundays. It's emotional, expressive, alive. And that's why food is such a powerful bridge in English. It lets you use real expressions that carry feeling. It reminds me of, it tastes like home. It's my comfort food. I'm not picky, but these aren't just phrases. They're invitations. They open space for connection. When you use them, you're not only practicing English, you're letting someone see you. Not the perfect version, but the real one. So when we talk about food today, we're not learning vocabulary. We're learning how to bring your story into the language, one flavor at a time. All right, then, let's take this a little further. Imagine you're with friends, and someone offers you a dish you don't really like. How would you refuse naturally without sounding rude?
Let me think. Maybe something like, thank you, but it's not really my thing.
Perfect. Soft, polite, honest. Now try another one. More casual.
Okay, I'm not too keen on that, but thanks for offering.
Lovely. Very natural. Now imagine you're in a restaurant and the waiter asks, would you like to add pickles? What do you say?
Easy. No pickles for me, please.
Good. But try adding a little explanation, something human.
All right. No pickles for me, please. I can't stand the taste.
Excellent. You're sounding more like yourself in English, not hiding, not overthinking, just speaking. Now, let's switch to something you really love. Imagine you're talking to a friend who's never tried pão de queijo. How would you describe it?
I'd say, it's warm and soft, slightly chewy, and it tastes like comfort. It reminds me of afternoons at home when everything felt peaceful.
That's beautiful, Marcus. Truly, you see how your English becomes richer when you allow memories to guide your words.
Yes. It feels more connected. Less like I'm translating, more like I'm sharing something.
Exactly. Now let me push you a bit more. Imagine you're recommending a dish to someone. Something that you think reflects who you are now, not just your past.
Let me think, maybe ramen. Not just because it tastes good, but because it reminds me of life here. Cold days, busy evenings, city noise. I'd say, it's calming and warm, almost like it slows you down. When I'm tired, it's my go-to.
That's such a vivid way to describe it. Now, try mixing feelings and vocabulary. Say something using flavor, sweetness, or texture.
Okay, I like dishes with strong flavors, things that have personality. Not too much sweetness, but enough to balance the salt. And I really pay attention to textures, soft on the inside, crispy on the outside.
Look at you. That sounded incredibly natural. Now here's another situation. You're with friends and someone asks, "What's your favorite comfort food?" How do you answer?
I'd probably say, Fajota. It's heavy but in the best way. It tastes like home, like a long weekend with family. When I eat it, it reminds me of who I was before life got busy.
See, that's English with soul. Now, let's try something slightly harder, talking about food you've grown to like over time.
Oh, that's easy. Sushi. The first time I tried it, I didn't understand the flavor. It felt too cold, too clean. But now I'd say, I used to dislike sushi, but now I love how simple it is. The flavor is gentle, the texture is smooth, and it feels fresh. It's something I learned to appreciate.
Experiences change our taste and the language we use to describe it. Now let's go even deeper. Is there a food that feels like a memory you're afraid of losing?
Yeah, corn cake. I know that sounds random, but my grandmother used to make it on rainy afternoons. I can still remember the smell, that mix of sweetness and warm air. In English, I'd say, corn cake tastes like childhood. Sweet, soft, and safe. Every time I eat it, I feel like I'm visiting a moment that no longer exists.
Marcus, that's one of the most beautiful sentences you've ever said in English. Truly. And look how naturally you did it, without worrying about perfect grammar or sophisticated words. Just honesty.
I'm starting to realize something. Talking about food is like talking about identity. It's easier to open up when I connect flavor to emotion.
Of course. Food is one of the most universal languages we have. You can sit with someone you've never met, and in 2 sentences about what you like or dislike, you reveal your history. That's the power of this conversation.
I guess learning English isn't just about expressing ideas. It's about expressing myself.
Exactly. Now, one last challenge. Imagine someone asks you in a deep, personal conversation, what flavor feels most like you? How would you answer?
Wow, that's a big question. Let me try. I'd say something warm and familiar. Nothing dramatic. Maybe the flavor of rice and beans, steady, simple, but full of comfort. Something that reminds me of where I come from, even when I'm far away.
That's perfect. You didn't just answer a question. You told a story. And that's what makes your English alive.
Thanks, Olivia. It feels good to speak like this, to connect English with who I am.
And that's the whole point of today's conversation. Not learning vocabulary, but learning to inhabit the language with your memories, your tastes, your truth. You know, when we talk about food, we think we're talking about something simple. A flavor, a texture, a dish we love or avoid. But today, listening to Marcus, I was reminded of something deeper. Our preferences reveal who we are long before we try to explain it. A favorite meal carries your childhood, your culture, your comfort. And the things you don't like, they often carry stories too. Language works the same way. Every word you choose, every detail you share, every memory you describe, it all becomes part of your identity in English. Speaking another language isn't about sounding perfect. It's about sounding true. And sometimes the easiest doorway into that truth is taste. So before you go, I want you to try something simple. Think about a food that reminds you of home. A dish that comforts you when life feels heavy. Or even something you can't stand. And say it out loud in English. Just once. Not to be correct, but to be honest. And if this conversation helped you feel a little closer to your own voice in English, stay with us. Subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and watch the next video that's appearing on your screen right now. We'll be here waiting for you for the next story, the next flavor, the next step in your English.